Aleksandre Topuria, the brother of the undefeated featherweight champion, will be making his UFC debut at UFC 312 versus Colby Thicknessy. Coincidentally, Alexander Volkanovski will also be in Colby's corner, with his former opponent Ilia being in Aleksandre's. Aleksandre's record is 5-1, all by finish, even the one he lost. He calls himself El Conquistador, but will he be able to conquer the bantamweight division like his brother did? Despite the smaller record, Aleksandre is actually the older brother by 51 weeks. Ilia debuted like 20 minutes before his brother, getting a triangle choke in the first round. On this night, Ilia would fight at bantamweight and Aleksandre would fight at featherweight, but in the UFC they would switch to the other one's weight class. So now Ilia is at featherweight and Aleksandre is at bantamweight. Aleksandre Topuria would take on Andreas Chiguano, who at the time was 0-3 with a decision loss and 2 armbar submission losses. Aleksandre seems to be just as fast as his brother with the hands in the opening exchange, and even went for a spinning heel kick. He would eat a kick and Chiguano would get overzealous, and this was where Aleksandre would take him down easily. He would attempt to get into side control and eventually get it after some struggle. Bottom side control is one of the worst positions to be in if you don't have the proper understanding of how to defend or escape, and it seems that Chiguano did not, and this is where Aleksandre took advantage of him, putting Chiguano in an armbar. Aleksandre made a mistake of opening his legs just a little bit, giving Chiguano enough time to rotate and wind up in Aleksandre's full guard, but he'd fake the sweep, off-balancing Chiguano's base and getting the angle to find another armbar, this time sealing the deal. You can even see Ilia watching cage side after his fight, cheering on his brother. A little over a month later, the Topurias would share another fight card. Ilia would fight first again, getting a rear naked choke 63 seconds into the fight. Aleksandre would face Alejandro Rumen, who at the time was 1-1. Aleksandre opened the fight up with a spinning kick to the body. He was clearly the faster of the two and looked so similar to how Ilia throws with his uppercut combos. He would sprawl and nearly get a modified guillotine choke, but Rumen was able to base and stand back up. Aleksandre from here just big brothered him. He would think about a Kimura or armbar briefly, before just trapping Rumen's arm and pounding away. He would think about one of those two submissions again, but instead transferred to the exposed back after Rumen didn't want to get hit anymore. Rumen had the opportunity to shake Aleksandre off of him here, but if you look at Aleksandre, he would stop that from happening by pushing off the cage wall with his foot, getting Rumen off balance and winding up on the ground. From here is basically just a matter of time. Aleksandre flattened him out and the two Topurias would share a night of RNCs. Just 20 days later, Aleksandre would return, this time without Ilia fighting on the same night. He would be facing the debuting Ivo Ivanov. There was a clear difference in size this fight. The two would exchange in a grappling sequence with Topuria ending up in full mount but not really doing anything with it, before Ivanov grabbed near the hip of Topuria and rotated him out of the full mount. They would wrestle up against the fence for a little bit, where Aleksandre was so close to getting a takedown and Ivanov would delay this by using the forbidden technique. A clear and prolonged foul, but Aleksandre would still wind up on top. Aleksandre would find himself in the full mount before going for a triangle choke that was pretty slick but ultimately would fail, and then an armbar from guard, but would not find the finish from here. They would end the round in a turtle and sprawl position with Aleksandre getting pounded on the bottom. The next round began and Aleksandre would telegraph a big takedown and once again would expend a lot of energy attempting to get Ivanov down, but ending up in the same position as when the previous round ended. Off the break of another takedown, he would get hit with an uppercut and turn his back to Ivanov. Never ever do this in a fight, as the body language just signals to your opponent that they have you on the ropes, and the only way you can defend here is by partially blocking, but you can't even see what you're blocking, so some shots will get through. And in this instance, both Israel Adesanya and Aleksandre Topuria would be taken down by their opponents. We see the same armbar that looked like it could have ended the fight, but Ivanov was able to step over Aleksandre, saving himself. All of these forced takedowns and slick submission attempts zapped the gas tank of Aleksandre. Even from the turtle and sprawl position, when Ivanov's just hitting his belly, that can contribute to getting tired in the fight. The video cuts out from here, so I assume that the ref waved it off shortly after. This will be Aleksandre's first loss, but they looked separated by an entire weight class, and that dude looked juiced to the gills and cheated to not get taken down. Still, there's a lesson to be learned for Aleksandre to never get tired and not force things in a fight. 6.5 years later, Aleksandre would return to the octagon with a TKO a minute and 48 seconds into the fight. He would face Lucas Tenorio, who was 6-18-1. This time it would be a catchweight of 139 pounds rather than at featherweight. Topuria would pressure early and land a right hand that would make Lucas seemingly quit. I mean, having a record of 6-18-1 like you're a journeyman, that's kind of just taking a paycheck in easy fights. Kind of like Kevin Holland. But Lucas didn't try and move, the towel was thrown and he tapped to strikes. It was an easy win for Aleksandre, being out of the octagon for so long. 3 months later, Aleksandre would return, facing 1-8 Alberto Ibanez. Aleksandre went right into pressuring, but doing it smart. He took his time to find the range and understand what shots were available to him, but you can tell by the way each fighter throws their punches, it was going to be over quick. There was a clear speed discrepancy. He would land a couple of good right hands, and that spinning heel kick would be shown again. A couple more right hands and an uppercut would make his opponent drop to the mat and pound it away for a finish. Yet again, another easy win. 14 months later, Aleksandre would face Johan Sagas, who was 3-1, another catchweight of 139 pounds. The fight would start, and it would begin similarly to the last fight, where Aleksandre would pressure without throwing too much. He would eat a lot of leg kicks and a couple of body kicks before a nut shot. Obviously, it would be briefly stopped, but as soon as it began, Aleksandre would pressure Sagas into the fence, land a right hand, and go for a takedown. Off the takedown, he would get into side control, then crucifix and pound away at Sagas. The ref gave Sagas time to move, but Aleksandre was just too good on top side control and from the crucifix position. Side control is the best position that he's utilized in his short career. He'll either go for that armbar or will go into crucifix and TKO you. In just 87 seconds into round 1, it was over. Johan Sagas was Aleksandre's final fight before getting signed to the UFC, which at this point is 21 months ago. So after all of this tape footage, will he have a successful career? I think that if he has even half of the potential that Ilia has, he will. The two brothers are built similarly, so they fight almost the same. Aleksandre's guard does not have the fundamental boxing guard that Ilia uses, and I'm sure that Ilia is leagues ahead in the striking. Aleksandre's only been in that one fight where he got tired and he kind of let Ivanov finish him. It just looked like he had nothing left to offer and could not keep pushing. Ilia had more experience when he entered the UFC, but he met a little bit of that learning curve, gassing out and getting dropped. Aleksandre's best skill shown so far has been the grappling. Will it be enough to beat the likes of Umar, Merab, Jan, and Figgy? Probably not yet. But he did take nearly 2 years off from his last fight, so maybe he comes back looking like a world beater. And on Ilia's rise to the top, he did not have a world champion brother with him to coach him and offer him advice. So Aleksandre has probably learned so much and gonna learn so much from the time that he spends with Ilia training, from combinations to footwork, cage control, range, pacing, and everything that goes along with the fight. Ilia's been there and done that and can help his brother. Ilia even did an interview where he credits his brother for the corner advice in between the first and second rounds of the Volkanovski fight, crediting him for the knockout over Volk. So maybe he does have good fight IQ. The thing is, he just looked good against guys that were on losing streaks, never won, or were debuting against him. Colby Thicknessy will be 7-0 as a pro, and if you want to count his amateur career, he would be on a 12-fight win streak right now, but 7-0 as a pro, so we can focus on that. And even though Ilia has a lot of experience, Colby's corner is going to have more, having more pro fights, and having Volkanovski in that corner. It'll literally be Topuria versus Volkanovski like 1.5. I have hopes that Aleksandre will at least have a semi-successful UFC career. Bantamweight is stacked from top to bottom and everyone there is a challenge. After Saturday, perhaps we will have more insight into how he could perform against these higher tier fighters. If Islam was a 10 out of 10 and CM Punk was a 1 out of 10, I would rate Aleksandre like a 4.5 right now. We just haven't seen too much of him, but there's still a lot of room to grow and time to learn. Let me know what you guys think, whether he's gonna win, or if he'll have a successful run like Ilia did, or if he won't be able to live up to the hype of a sibling like many other UFC fighters such as Herbert Burns, Antonia Shevchenko, and Muhammad Usman. Good fighters in their own right, but nowhere near the level of their siblings. But we'll find out on UFC 312, so make sure you elbow that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all later.